Intoxicated by your love. Let's read Proverbs 5:18-19. It says, may your fountain be blessed. May you rejoice in the wife of your youth. A loving doe, a graceful deer. May her breast satisfy you always. May you ever be intoxicated with her love. Ecclesiastes 9:9. Enjoy life with your wife whom you love all the days of this meaningless life that God has given you under the sun, all your meaningless days, for this is your lot in life, in your toilsome labor under the sun. Solomon didn't make that sound too exciting, did he? I mean, this is what you get. Try to enjoy life with your wife. But Proverbs puts it great. I was like, reading that yesterday, and I asked Gidget, as it says, may her breast satisfy you always, and I'm like, God, what if you take them? And then I said, well, okay, I still got some. And the thing you got to learn about me is, me and my home and my family laugh about the most serious issues because laughter brings a sense of just ease for us. Maybe it doesn't for you, but for us it does. And she cracked up when I said that last night. So for us it works. And then laughter is just a breath of fresh air. But I want to talk to you this morning about being intoxicated by your love. My wife informed me over a week ago that what I bought her for Mother's Day. What I bought her for Mother's Day. She's got kids, but what I bought her for Mother's Day, and she informed me of that, and I said, it's no problem. That's awesome. That's what you've been wanting. That's great. So this week she was shopping one day, and she sent me she did a little selfie and took a picture and sent it to me. How do you like this? And and then she said what the price was, and I told her that I would pay for it, get it if she wanted it. And then yesterday when I was at the store, I called her and told her I was going to get her something else. And she says, honey, but I've already got this, and you just did that for me the other day. Why are you doing this? And I said, honey, for one reason. I said, I am intoxicated by your love. Now, I also told her this week, when she was giving somebody therapy, because my wife gives therapy too, and she was trying to encourage them that if a relationship was meant to be, that it would be meant to be, and God would bring them back together. And you know how breakups are. It's always a broken heart there. And, so Gidget was trying to encourage and lift up. And I just looked at her and I said, honey, that's a whole lot easier said than done. And she says, I know it's not easy. And I said, it's a whole lot easier for you to say, I said, because you already got your prince. Do you? Yes, she does. Nobody else in the house might not agree, but she does. Okay, let's get to talking about this morning. I mean, as we think about marriage and we think about our life together, we all want a beautiful life together. We do. We want a life together, a fun life together, a fulfilled life together. I mean, just like our text says, we want to be able to enjoy life all the days of our life. We want to be able to enjoy our family all the days of our life. We want to be able to rejoice together, laugh together. And really what happens in marriage is that God brings a life partner to you, and that life partner and you now together, as you become one flesh, are going to take on life together. Because we all know that life is not easy. Life is hard. There's a lot of battles out there, a lot of struggles out there. But now both of you have a helpmate next to you to help take on life together, raising a family together, doing ministry together. Together forever, experiencing God's best, to where all the dreams that He has for us and the dreams that He has put into our hearts, all of those things can come true. But this is what happens. We look around today, and I'm sure that if everyone here was honest today and we went around the room, all of us would see a lot of people who are broken today. There's a lot of broken lives. There's a lot of broken families. There's a lot of broken marriages, a lot of broken dreams. So there's a lot of hurt out there. And I believe sometimes because there's so much hurt and because there's so much brokenness out there that we begin to think that really all that God has out there for us is really not possible. I mean, after all, how many people today can we look at and say, man, they're living God's dream. Look at their marriage. Look at their family. Look at the fulfillment that they have. Look at the enjoyment that they have with one another, the ministry they're doing together, the battles that they're enduring in life together. I mean, as we look around, we don't see a whole lot of that today. So this is what we've done. You remember we looked at a message a couple of weeks ago on how we need to come to a juncture in our life in certain areas to where we have to say, it is what it is, and now I've got to deal with it so that I can get past it. It's not going to change. It's not going to go away. For a lot of us in marriage, what we've done is we've looked at our marriage and we have come to the conclusion that it is what it is. It's never going to get any better. It's always going to be this way. He's never going to communicate with me. He's never going to be my companion. He's never going to understand me. She's never going to do this for me. She's never going to encourage me. She's never going to make me feel like a man and tell me how awesome I am. We just come to the conclusion that it is what it is. And it's not good, and I'm not happy with it, but it's probably never going to get any better. And you know what? If we have that mentality, guess what? It will never get any better. You remember how it was when you were dating? When you were getting to know each other? You see, it's so easy for us to say when we're dating, this is what we all do. When we're dating, and even did it way back in my day, it's been a long time ago, we would like, man, we're getting to know each other, and man, you're the best things ever happened in my life. You're just great. You're wonderful. You are my soulmate. I mean, you are the one that God created to me. And a lot of times in life, when maybe we went through some hurt and brokenness and maybe a divorce, and we meet that second one and we say, man, where were you 20 years ago? You're my soulmate. God created you for me. Maybe He did. I don't know. Maybe He didn't. Maybe God brought you together now. I hope that He did. And I hope things work out great. And it's easy for us to do that when we're dating. We don't have any struggles and any problems. Man, we're getting to know each other. We're talking all the time, texting all the time. The excitement is there. The energy is there. You're falling in love. Man, we're having fun. Man, He's bringing me gifts and cards and roses, and He's planning these dates, and things are so adventurous, and things are so wonderful, and we're enjoying each other, and there's compliments everywhere. Then we get married. And then maybe it takes a little bit of time, because there's always a little honeymoon. But you know what happens then? Life happens. And you know what happens when life happens? We lose all that adventure. We lose all that excitement. We lose all that romance. And we lose all that fun. And you know what happens to your marriage? It becomes dull, dry. Maybe it dies. But whatever state it's in, it's not giving life to you, it's draining life out of you. Some of you might not even want to go home. I mean, work is the best place for you to be. You just don't want to be in that atmosphere, because all it is doing is just sucking life out of you. And for so many of us, what marriage becomes is a business partnership where we talk about the bills that need to be paid, the things that need to be done around the house, who's going to get the kids, who's going to take them here, who's going to take them there. And it's reduced just down to a business partnership. And a lot of times we stay together and we don't even connect anymore, and we've lost all that. Why did we lose all of that? We had all of that when we were dating. I'm sure you can go back and you can remember how you used to look into our eyes and you used to tell her A, B, C, and D. You used to make all these promises, and you had all of these things that you would do to just create just a wonderful atmosphere in the relationship. Where did it all go? How did we lose it? How do we get it back? I'm going to tell you this morning. Number one, let's talk about the marriage recipe. So we talk about the marriage recipe. We're talking about the plan. And, I believe it's Ford that says, built Ford, tough, built to last. Well, God designed marriage. He designed and built. He's the architect of the home. So He gave us really everything we need to make this thing work. He gave us the recipe. If you're going to sit down and you're going to make a special meal, whether it's a one-plate deal or you're baking something, you got to follow the recipe. Then even when you follow the recipe, it might take you a while to get it right. Because it doesn't matter how many times Mama gave us that recipe of how to make those homemade biscuits. Nobody can make those homemade biscuits like Mama. Nobody can. What she does with that dough and that flour and that buttermilk, I just don't see how. And I've tried and I've tried and I've tried. Mine look like bricks. We got to follow the recipe. And sometimes we just got to keep at it and keep at it and keep at it until we're able to get to where we're working this thing the way God says we are to work it. But He designed it. So first of all, we need to understand that marriage is, I'm going to get to the triangle in just a second, but marriage in Genesis 2:24 says that, therefore a man shall leave his father and mother, shall cleave to his wife, and the two shall become what? The two shall become one flesh. Now as we think about that word oneness, that's really what we're beginning to experience in the honeymoon stage of courting one another and in the early days of marriage. Whether or not we're doing it spiritually or not at that time, maybe we were, maybe we weren't, but we're talking, we're communicating, and we're there for one another and sharing with one another. That word oneness there means closeness. It means togetherness. It means knowing, sharing, serving, strengthening. When we talk about oneness and we talk about intimacy, we're not talking about we think of the word intimacy and we just think of physical intimacy, but intimacy means closeness. That means we become intimate spiritually, closer spiritually, one flesh. We become intimate emotionally. We become intimate, physically also. But we become intimate in all those areas in our life where there are needs at. God gave you that other person as you seek Him together. As you seek God together, that other person, your helpmate, is there to meet those needs as intimacy begins to occur in all these different areas of your life. Also, marriage is not only leaving and cleaving and becoming one flesh, But marriage was going to be a building block of society. That is what God was going to do to perpetuate His great name. He was going to do it through the home, through the family. So a man, woman would come together, leave, cleave, become one flesh, serve God, worship God, honor God, experience spiritual intimacy, emotional intimacy, physical intimacy, have children, raise those children to honor God, love God, to worship God, to serve God, to come to know God, and let those children go out and duplicate what you just taught them. That would be a building block of society. That is the reason why we must follow God's model. Following God's model not only meets the deepest needs inside of you as an individual, but it is also what God is going to do to infiltrate this world with His presence. Whoever controls the family controls the future. That's why God chose to work through the family. Now, marriage is also an illustration. As I told you last week, man, woman, God. God is what? God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit. So marriage is an illustration of God. You've got God, man, woman. The three make what? You are to become what? Oneness, one flesh. Let us make man in our image. How did God make man? He made man spirit, soul, and body. God the Father, Son, and Spirit. That's how He made us. How did He make the family? Not only God, man, woman, but husband, wife, children. He did it what? There again, in threes. Now, let's talk about marriage in this triangle. In that bottom one, this triangle to me, I've used this before, but this is, to me, paints the most visible picture that can be painted for us to understand what God's model is. First of all, marriage is spiritual. So in that bottom blank there, I don't know if we've got the fill-ins or not, but write the word spirit or spiritual. Write the word fellow worshipers. So what happens on that bottom level? That bottom level is so important because that's going to be the foundation level. So in other words, man and woman on the right and left side of the triangle, what are they doing together? God is number one. He is my one. My woman is my two. As I seek my one with my two, what happens? We gradually, as we get closer to God, all of those needs are being met, spirit, soul, and body. Marriage, first of all, is spiritual. It is holy. Most of us skip this. Most of us skip seeking God first, individually as a husband or as a wife, and collectively together. That's the most important step. If you miss step one, you will never make this thing work the way God intended. I'm going to show you why in just a moment. The bottom level is absolutely crucial. Because when we are dating, the reason why it is so easy to love everything about the other person is because you don't know everything about the other person. But you will. And the only way you will make it in the soul-to-soul connection, in dealing with life, and in the physical-to-physical, the only way you will make it through those struggles is you must have a base. You must have a spiritual connection and intimacy with God as you seek God yourself and as you seek God with your wife. So marriage is spiritual. Second of all, marriage is emotional. That's in the second one. That is your soul. Your soul is who you are. So right there where soul is, right above that, emotional, and then you can write above that, best friends. We're going to see how as you begin to develop in your relationship with God, you come closer together, soul to soul, who you are as an individual, all of your perfections and all of your imperfections are coming to the surface, but guess what? You're still able to navigate through because you're becoming best friends. And what do best friends do? They're there. They stick. They encourage. They forgive, they love, they serve. Then marriage actually becomes the body. So in marriage, you've got spirit, soul, body. So up there at the body, put physical above that. And then you can write passionate lovers above that. So what happens is your fellow worshipers together, I'm seeking my one, which is God. I'm seeking my one with my two. I'm growing in my relationship with God, developing in that relationship. I'm coming closer to my woman, soul to soul. We're getting to know one another. And guess what? We not only know one another, but now we are friends. We're best friends. And as we move up the triangle, even though the intimacy was there from day one of the marriage, it just becomes better and better because you're doing it God's way. You're making your way up the triangle in a holy manner, in a manner to where you're coming closer to God and you're coming closer to one another. Everybody has a need to be accepted and loved. To be accepted and loved no matter what their perfections are and their imperfections. That's what the marriage relationship is to resemble. It is acceptance and love. Based off of, guess what? When you married that other person, all those imperfections that you did not know about, that you now know about, guess whose they are? They're yours too. You became one that day. Becoming one's going to be a lifetime process, but you inherited all that day. You just didn't know all that you were inheriting on that day. That's why you got to have God to work your way through this. So, now, if you leave the spiritual out, and this is what so many people are doing today, man, I look at this chick over here looks good, I'm single, man, I'm going to go up, I'm going to make a move on her, and I'm going to see if I can get her to go out with me. Boy, look at her, ain't she looking good? It's physical. Nothing wrong with being attracted to somebody physically. Especially, when you're single, you look at somebody, that's usually the first thing that draws us to somebody would be looks or some type of the personality. So we're drawn together. But if you base that relationship moving forward, it might be the best physical woman you've ever laid eyes on, the most beautiful woman you ever laid eyes on. It might be everything you ever thought about, what looks sexy in a man. But if you build a relationship off of physical with no spiritual, you know what you do? Is you flip the triangle upside down. So what happens is we're physical before we get married. Spiritual has been left out. We're upside down on a triangle, and guess what? That upside down triangle has no what? No stability. You'll never build a marriage off of beauty and sex. Never. It might be good for a while, but it will eventually dissipate. You build a marriage off of commitment. I'm in this with you. All your good and all your bad, I'm in this with you forever from this day forward. Number 2, let's talk about the mutual responsibility. Let's talk about the process. First thing you got to do is know the plan. We know the plan. Marriage is spiritual first. I seek God. I seek God with my two. God begins to bring us closer together in all these areas. Now you know the plan. Guess what? You got to start working the plan. You know the recipe. Start working at it. You'll never start achieving any of it if you never start working at it. So you know the plan and you work the plan. So number one, right here, not in your notes. Whether my wife does or not, the number one thing I must do first is I must develop my relationship with God. Now you already know you're struggling against the recipe if the other one won't do it with you. But guess what? You're married now. And because you're married now, you're going to do the right thing whether the other one does the right thing or not. So number one on God's recipe is I will seek my one. I will develop my relationship with God. Why do I need to develop my relationship with God? So that I can become the right person. Because if I can become the right person, then I can be the right person. Because I'm going to need to become the right person, more like Christ. I'm going to need to be more like Christ because I am fixing to see a whole lot of imperfections and struggles and adversities that I will not be able to handle and deal with unless I am becoming and being more like Jesus. So number one, I got to develop my relationship with God. What happens when I do that? It changes my allegiance. Because guess where my allegiance is before I develop my relationship with God? My allegiance is with me. It's all about me. My needs, what I want, my needs, and me don't like all that ugly stuff now about you that I'm finding out. My allegiance is to me. So what happens is I don't develop my relationship with God. My allegiance is to me. She does the same. Man, we start trying to come closer together, soul to soul. Man, we start fighting. We don't know how to deal with difficulties. We don't know how to communicate. We don't know how to love. We don't know how to serve. We don't know how to forgive. We don't know how to let go. We don't know how to get rid of all the baggage. So guess what? That's where it begins to deteriorate. It gets drier and drier and duller and duller and starts draining the life out of you. Why? Because your allegiance is to you. It's all about you. It's not even all about her anymore, all about him anymore. It's all about you. But as you develop your relationship with God, it changes your allegiance from you to God. So I'm becoming more like God. And as I develop this relationship, I am able to now start being more like God. So if I'm here and I'm becoming like God and being more like God, and I'm running into adversity and imperfections, I now know through developing this relationship, man, I can handle this conflict. I don't like it, but I can handle it. I can love through it. I can be compassionate through it. I can encourage through it. I don't like this. I don't like what he done, what she done, but I know that God has forgiven me. I've learned how to forgive. So I will forgive, and I will do what God does when he forgives. I will not ever bring it up before him or her again. I'll bury that thing down in the depths of the sea because in developing my relationship with God, I'm now learning how to forgive. Man, it will set you free. It will free your relationship up. Can you imagine what will happen in a marriage recipe when both of you are seeking God together, becoming more like God together, being more like God together? Both of you coming with adversities that are coming at you and conflicts that are coming at you with your allegiance to God and not to yourself. Man, that would squash out 99% of the things that come against your marriage. Man, I ain't even getting an amen out of that one. I thought that was good stuff. I thought that would like make all of us want to run right now and start working on our relationship with God. Let's think about it. Every fight you have, every problem you have, I guarantee somehow, some way, centers in a word called selfishness. Hello? Changes your allegiance, but it also changes your attitude and your approach. You become a giver and not a taker. Been in the woods a lot lately, and there's a lot of ticks in the woods. What happens in the marriage relationship, and we're just ticks. We're just there to suck the life out of the other person. We give no life whatsoever. We just take. But when you change your allegiance, it changes your attitude and your approach. I wrote down this word called synergy. Synergy means this: the interaction of different elements producing something greater than the individual elements. So what happens in a marriage relationship, I kind of liken it to that word synergy. As we've got God at the top, He's already perfect. And as you and I begin to connect with Him more, the two individual elements now come together. And because they come together in harmony and in unity, you are more powerful together and can accomplish more together than you could ever dream of. But for most of us, we don't have that synergy, unity, harmony, bringing us together and becoming stronger. What we've done is we have drawn a line down the middle of our life. She's on one side fighting, I'm on the other side fighting. And everybody in your life around you is tired of hearing about it. Because it's just fight. I want to share with you 3 types of love that fall into this triangle. And I want you to go back and write these in your blanks. This is what happens if we still got the triangle here. In that bottom one there, marriage, first of all, is spiritual. And the reason why I need to develop my relationship with God is that God, that first love that He gives me is that agape love. That is a God-like love. So in that bottom area, you want to write the word agape. That is a God-given love that is deposited inside of you when you trust Jesus Christ as your personal Savior. Now, agape love is unlike any love that we probably know or at all used to. And agape love is not only given to me when I trusted Christ, but as I seek God and develop my relationship with God, guess what? That love grows. That agape love is being deposited more and more inside of me. So it's not only in me, but now as I'm becoming, I'm able to be. So that agape love, that sacrificial love, that love that comes from an act of my will, not based on anything that you have done. Maybe you've been mean. Maybe you've been ugly. Maybe you've been angry. Maybe you have demoted me. You've taken advantage of me. You have humiliated me. But I'm going to choose agape love. I'm going to, by an act of my will, love you, forgive you, and be sweet to you in spite of everything you've done to me. Agape love is a God-given love. Becoming the right person, being the right person. So now you're able to serve like Christ would serve. You're able to build up. You're able to care for. Now the focus is, I'm not a taker anymore, I'm a giver. And I'm a giver even in the midst when somebody is trying to take from me. I can eventually come to the point to where I can be a giver in the marriage relationship even when the other person is trying to be a taker. As Dr. Phil always says, we need a hero in this situation. Somebody needs to step up in the marriage relationship, the husband or the wife, and be the hero. Quit worrying about being right all the time and let this agape love start flowing through you and become the hero in the relationship. Because what this does is it releases the power of God for your marriage to go beyond it is what it is to what God says it should be and can be. For the majority of us, marriage is simply this: I'll do my part if you do your part. When marriage is supposed to be in this agape love level, I will do my part, whether you do your part or not. That's why I often said, other than somebody beating you, slapping you and beating you around, there is no attack against your marriage that cannot be healed if there is agape love. Nothing. Do you have grounds? Yes, you might have grounds. But can it be healed? Can it be fixed? Maybe even can be healed and fixed and be better than it ever was. When agape love is there, God is there. And when God is there, nothing is impossible with God. There's agape love. And then there's friendship love. So in that second one, right, this is a Philadelphia love, a brotherly love. Me and my wife, I always say this because we know what it means even if nobody else knows what it means. I'll just look at her sometimes and I'll just say, you know what? I like you. I like you. Because we already know, because God has been really, even from the age of 19, He's always been the foundation. We know we've got to love each other from this day forward. We know what we've overcome. We know what we've come through. We know that agape love says, I love you because that is who we are in Christ. But when you can actually say, I like you, whew, that goes beyond, over and above. I like you. Friendship love. Best friends. Spend time together. Laugh together. Have fun together. I'm not a comedian by no means. Don't have a whole lot of humor publicly speaking. But I love to laugh and cut up. That's just my nature. I got just, especially around my family, when I can let my guard down and I don't have to be the preacher. And because I'm telling you, I have raised some crazy kids. Just spend a little bit of time with them. You'll find out real quick. So we just love to just do the craziest, quirkiest things and just laugh about them. Because you know what laughter does? Laughter brings a breath of fresh air into the room. That's what it does. We've been going to Jamaica and this Rush event that we've done, and we've done it with another church and several other churches. And at first, there's only one person I know that's crazier than me, and that's Ben. But on our trips, man, I just have so much fun because I just laugh the whole trip. And I think what that laughter has done, at first people didn't know how to take it. But then the more they observed us and got to know us, they wanted some of it. And they were drawn to it. Those that at first wouldn't get on the bus with us actually walked up on the bus, saw, I'm going to say they saw Ben, and turned around and walked back off the bus. That same lady the next year was fighting her way to sit next to Ben because of that laughter and that fun. It just brings a breath of fresh air. Now, I'm not going to talk a whole lot about this because I don't let nobody in my bedroom, and I'm not going to get in your bedroom. But there's a sexual love. Now notice the first one is I love you by choice. The second one is I like you a lot. And the third one in the marriage relationship is I lust for you alone. That's God's way. His recipe. Number 3, the magnificent reward. You begin to do God's recipe, you will experience His presence. You will experience His blessings and His power in your life, in your marriage, and in your family. It will be a blessing to you. It will be a blessing to your mate. And it will be a blessing to your children. And you know what? Not only a blessing to you, not only a blessing to your mate, not only a blessing to your children, but it's going to become a blessing to your church. Because the church will only be as strong as the families that make it up. Then it's going to be a blessing to the community. Because the families that make up this church live in the community. So you're going to be a blessing to the community. And ultimately, by perpetuating that through your life, marriage, and children, you're going to send those kids out, and you have the opportunity